All right, welcome back to another episode of Let's Be Real. I'm Tara.
And I'm Sheri.
And we're two South Florida LCSWs. And today we've got some stories or questions to kind of go over, some curiosities from the community. I won't specify what community because we're still waiting for more DMs from you guys, our listeners.
That's
Ask
right.
the questions.
Come on, give us more.
Give us more. So now we have to answer other people's questions. I am on Reddit, so full disclosure. I won't claim these.
We cannot tell a lie.
No, I'm too transparent.
There you go.
Okay, so we'll jump into it.
Sure.
So this person asked, what qualifies a good therapist? Or a way I'm rewording that question is, I'm shopping around for a therapist. What am I looking for?
Okay, so I think, let's say for me, am I saying I'm for my personal or my professional view? I know I don't know how to split the two.
I was going to say, I think both are welcome and encouraged.
So I think the idea is for me, I want somebody I connect with, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not I don't want somebody who's a by the books, stark, I'm going to sit there and stare at you and listen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like to talk and I want to vent and I want to hear I want you to hear what I have to say, but
I
need
interaction.
you to interact with me, right? I get a lot of people who say, this is the first time I've actually had anybody give me advice.
Yeah.
And I know we're not allowed to say that word, but what the hell did they come here to see?
We're in New Age therapy.
Right? Okay, whatever. I
Freud
consider
can suck it. I don't know.
Absolutely. He probably
No pun
did.
intended.
Sorry, Freud. I'm sure Freud did. Anyway, he talked about it way too much.
He talked about it so much.
Yeah, he was very much fascinated with it. So I believe he did. Anyway, next topic. But I think the idea is you have to have somebody who, when you come in, they seem to know what they're talking about, right? We have an understanding that this topic that you have a problem with or you would like to learn more about yourself in regards to, they have knowledge base, right? You're not going to say, tell me what book you read last. But, you want to be able to know that that's somewhere in their wheelhouse, right? That's not some book they read 20 years ago.
Sure. Yeah, that's a really
I
good
think that's
point.
very important.
Absolutely. When I have consultations with clients, towards the end of the consultation, it's like a job interview. I'm like, okay, well, what are your next steps? If you're shopping around, like, when do you plan on letting me know that you want to hire me, or do you want to schedule our first session right now?
Right.
And I get a lot of people that will say, I did just talk to somebody else yesterday, or there's a couple other people that I was thinking about reaching out to. And I'll always tell them, reach out, catch a vibe. See what feels the most right for you, what makes sense for you.
Right.
And trust that instinct, because if you hire me, you do not have to stay with me.
Agreed. We're not trapped. I mean, they're not trapped, right? I think either one of us, we're not trapped, right? If I feel like this is not the right vibe for me, that we're not going in the right direction together, specifically for the client,
exactly,
then I would just say, maybe you should find somebody who's better off with what you got going on.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not afraid to say there's certain things that I'm absolutely not going to take on.
Yeah.
And I'm very clear cut on that. I do not take anybody under 18. I mean, me personally, in my practice, we do, but I don't. And I've learned to not go against my rule. I have that rule for a reason. I do not see eating disorders. I do not see strictly substance abuse. And then I have other things, right, that I'm like, ooh, I don't know. Let's work through that. Like I do have clients that may have some of those things going on. There are, of course, not everybody. Just because you have substance abuse issues does not mean that there aren't mental health issues, right? And those a lot of times are intertwined. But don't come into my office high.
Yeah.
That's my rule. If you come to see me and you're clearly high, do come back when you're clean. We can't do any work when you're high.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think that's respectful. So it's like you said, the consultation is for both sides of the conversation.
Agreed.
I have a wheelhouse that I want to stay in to be the most effective.
Right.
And you have things that you want to get addressed and you want support with.
Right.
And I've had people who are like, I have these things I want to work with. And I'm like, okay, your number 3 goal is not something I'm like super familiar with in terms of like, I can't go out the gate helping you.
Right.
I'm happy to learn. I'm happy to like work through with you or
Right.
establish that goal better. Maybe we get through goals 1 and 2 and then I refer you out. How do you feel about that?
Right. Exactly.
And some people are really comfortable with that. I'll talk about EMDR, and I am not certified to provide EMDR.
Right.
And when I tell them about it and I show them what it's about, and they're like, that seems really cool, but Tara, I think I really want to work with you. I'm like, dope, let's go. And then when you're ready to jump to another therapist, you absolutely can. Or see both of us at the same time. That's something that's
So you're talking
possible.
about consultations, like when they call you on the phone and say, you know, I'd like 15 minutes of your time, right? I think if you haven't figured it out in 15 minutes that I'm either for your for you or not, I really don't want to spend more than 15 minutes. Like that.
Agreed.
Right. I have a very busy day, and I don't mean to be like you know, like I'm too good for that. That's not what I'm saying. But the idea is that come in. You know, what's one session?
I agree.
If you need more time than 15 minutes, then you need to come and sit with me and see if that's what you. And I've had people say, I just came from not too long ago, I had another one. I told myself I would see 3 people, and you're my second one. The first one didn't work out, and I'm going to go see one more. I'm like, oh, okay. But if you're here for a full session, I'm still going to charge you.
Right. Yeah. Goldilocks it. Do your thing.
Right. If it didn't work out well for you, or we both say it's not a good fit, I'm still going to charge you.
Yes.
Right. If you got there 15 minutes, 20 minutes with me on the phone, I think that's sufficient enough time to say whether you want to come and sit in my space. Yeah. Right. So that has been a little bit weird for me before when someone has said, I have more than one. You know, I've seen a couple other people. I'm going to go interview some more. And I'm thinking, okay, all right. Okay, fine. That, you know, over time in the beginning, that would have like made me feel really uneasy. Now I'm just like, okay, all right. If you come back, that's great. You know? Yeah. But I usually try to make people make the appointment on the phone. I'm like, okay, you know, because I have a person who makes an appointment for me. She's already made that appointment for you to speak with me for 15 minutes. Okay, so if you would like to go ahead, she can make that appointment for you next, right? Does that sound something like you would like? Yes. I feel like I have to do close the call.
Make a deal.
Make a deal. I didn't call them, right? They called me. So
it's a fair point. It's a fair point. I think I come across a lot of people who aren't sure where they're at with being ready to hire somebody.
Right.
And so I'll give them advice on, you know, make the call, set up the appointment. If this first 15 minutes felt pretty okay for you, imagine how you're going to feel great at minute 50. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Exactly.
And just showing, like, sometimes that 15 minutes can just be cathartic enough of, like, someone's here to create space for you.
Right.
Now, granted, in those 15 minutes, I do talk quite a bit where I tell you, like, what my wheelhouse is, my background, my certifications, what I prefer to work with, what modalities I use, what you can expect from me. So I'm talking a lot, but you get a sense of who I am. And then I might mention the podcast, or I might mention my socials where I have like a little bit of my like joking, sarcastic side. If you want to get to know me from that, I told you I got a client who listened to the podcast before she called me for
how cool. That's awesome.
And I was like, oh, I know you like me then.
If you can tolerate this, then you know you're
and then we're doing
okay. Agreed.
So it's what you're looking for in your consultation, you know best.
Exactly.
So you may not know what CBT or ACT or mindfulness or EMDR, all of these letters may mean nothing to you.
Right.
Catch a vibe. See how those 15 minutes make you feel.
I think that's more important.
I think so
the vibe is more like
research tells us that.
Absolutely. I can not teach someone to have the right vibe with another human being.
Yeah,
right? I can teach you like what CBT is. I can teach you what EMDR is. Like I can teach to other therapists what modality will work best for this or how do we interact, but I can't teach you how to have a personality.
Right.
Right. And some people, I apologize, but some people do not, and they are therapists, and it's really hard for someone to sit across from you, spill their entire life in 45 minutes or an hour in that first session to look at you and say, I just don't even know where to start. And I'm like, just speak your truth, girl. You know, like, or boy, you know, whatever we got here. Just tell me what made you come today. You know, again, like I've said before, I'm not going to say, you know, tell me about your birth
Yeah.
all that
Were you
kind of stuff.
colicky?
Right, exactly. Did you breastfeed? I don't care. That may come in along down the road. But anyway, the idea is it's the interaction. It's the right.
It's the humanness of it. So let the
Absolutely.
conversation be the conversation.
Right. But I've also known that when people have called and they may see my profile or somebody else's profile in my practice and say, I really have like made a connection with that profile on their website or in Psychology Today. And if that person doesn't have availability, they will wait.
Yeah.
Because they're like, no, that's the one I was looking for. And I really don't want to deviate. So that's why we all have Psychology Todays in my office. That's why we all are on the website. Because, they may call for me and I'm like, I don't have any availability, or that's not really my strength. Yeah. Right.
And they're like, I'll wait for you to get to see you.
I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to all of a sudden be like gung-ho and ready to work on that with you. I'm just not. But and somebody might be better off. So then that's when we say, okay, why don't you go read their profile before that way, if you, because people get a vibe off that too, right? You look at I wouldn't pick somebody unless somebody told me specifically about somebody. I wouldn't be able to pick them off of just a name out of a provider book, right?
That makes sense.
So
yeah, that's why we have those endorsements on Psychology Today now as well.
Exactly.
Okay, so a vibe.
A vibe.
I think
that's the most important,
here.
Right? Obviously, they have to have an idea. If you have an eating disorder, you're not going to go to someone just because they had a good vibe, right?
Yeah, probably not.
I mean, if you have a real full-blown eating disorder, not just, you eat your feelings. There's a difference. I mean, obviously, you know a difference more than I do, but... Right. If we're talking about trauma related, I'm here for you. If it's not and you need to seek medical advice, you need to go there first. Right.
So, absolutely. And that's what consultations are for too, is setting expectations.
Right.
It sounds like you're talking about these symptoms, which do really well with these other professionals on board with you. How open are you to that process? Especially with eating disorders, we talk about that a lot. Right. It's really advised that you also work with a dietitian and a physician if you're in a danger zone for your hormones or certain, like your immunity and your iron levels and all of those things. Right. So those are good to know.
Agreed.
Yeah. When we stay in our lane and we also just open up a 15-minute conversation, and then we're like, Sheri might be a better fit for you.
Right, exactly.
Cool. So on to another question, which it breaks my heart a little bit. Uh-oh. How do you feel whenever a client decides to terminate, but you feel like you're like right on the brink of something great with them?
Oh, yeah. Well, I notice that happens when we're, like you said before, about we're on the brink. And then all of a sudden they don't show back up.
Yeah. For whatever reason.
And I usually will, like, it'll happen. Like, we've been going strong. Things are going well. And then, have a couple no-shows. And I'm not really a big fan of, I don't think anybody is a fan of no-shows, but, just kind of give me a heads up. You can't afford it or you can't do whatever. That's fine. But then if I normally hold a spot for you, meaning I have a lot of clients who want to have the same particular time every week.
Yeah.
And so then you don't show up for a while. And then now you want your spot again. I'm
now
sorry.
I'm in trouble, yeah.
Now I'm ready to work on that. Well, but now I don't have a spot for you because, and I may not make an appointment for you again. Right? There becomes a point where
that's true.
If I'm giving this time to you, especially if all of a sudden you just fell out of nowhere, right? Because you were afraid, which absolutely tell me that, it was too much for me. And I've had people say, hey, we went a little too far. Okay. So we're going to come back and we're going to work just on the surface level stuff, maybe work on understanding feelings themselves. Because we talked about that for a brief second before we got on air about like how people just really don't. There are some people who really don't understand their feelings, their emotional feelings. Like, they can say I'm happy and sad, but they don't know anything else and they feel numb inside. That's a really hard thing to work with. So you can't go to another level if you can't even do that. So once they get past that, then sometimes it's too much.
Yeah. That's very true.
So I'm like, okay, well, let's just go back to this piece, right? So I think I don't get my feelings hurt. I just get like, oh, I thought we were getting somewhere,
So it doesn't happen very often to me anymore. Like in the beginning, I felt like it happened a lot. But I think more and more people, like I've built a good communication with my clients. Yeah, it does hurt my feelings sometimes. Not every time, but sometimes it does, because I was like, you're rooting for them. Yeah. I want to be your biggest cheerleader. I think I really relate to what you were saying of, okay, well, maybe we did a lot of work in one session and now you feel like an emotional hangover of our session. Like it was a lot. And that's why those like fluffy sessions are really helpful, where you feel like you didn't really process anything, but we're just connecting now. Like we're just building our rapport. We're building our relationship. We're building our alliance, as it's called. And those are absolutely valuable. They're vital. Right. Not if you're seeing me weekly, you don't want every session to be super insightful. No, I definitely take, especially when we're dealing with the EMDR, right? We have to be in this window of tolerance. So if it's not bothering you in this high level here, then we're not going to be able to do anything. If it's way over the top, whoa, we're definitely not going to do that. But I got to stay within a window. If it doesn't bother you, it's not going to go away. I know that sounds terrible, but we got to get to the yuck in order to get rid of it. Yes. But sometimes even the process of the EMDR alone, right? Just the following with the eyes or even the tapping, because your eyes move when your eyes are closed. It's so weird to see it. It's cool, but it's weird because people don't realize, oh, but you said eye movement. My eyes aren't moving. My eyes are closed. Oh, they're moving. See, yeah, but the idea is that sometimes people get dizzy. Sometimes people feel nauseous because it brings up things that their body is like, yeah, I do not want to feel this. It keeps the score. Absolutely. And that's a huge, like visualization of that. Yeah. What do we call that? We call that rupture, right? So when there's a disruption in the relationship between client and therapist, and building that back up, I want to empower my clients to be able to tell me what I pushed them too far. Exactly. Or I took a misstep, right? Well, I have instead of just saying stop or that's too much for me, I was taught to do like a make a little like a timeout, kind of like give me a moment. That's too much. Or I'll have sometimes people, but I just can't go any further. I'm like, okay, so then we just work on breathing and we come back down, right? Yep. So I mean, it's how you're supposed to do it, but some people let people go how they are because they don't know how to bring them back down. But I will not, even if I have to push back my next session and run over a little bit, I will make sure that person is in a good space before they leave, because nothing worse than somebody coming out being hysterical and, I don't want anybody to crash. Well, I don't want everyone to be responsible for that, or like not being able to let go of that on their way home, right? So, but I will have people say, that, wow, that was rough. Can we go and take it easier this time? Sure, absolutely. We're definitely not going to go back there today. Yeah. So good. I think those are really valuable. So I guess my thoughts on having a client that, I'll say, ghosts, right? And just drops off and doesn't respond. And I do my due diligence with three times of contact, right, using different modalities. So I might text you, I might email you, and I might send like a secure message through my EHR or whatever. Right. I never call. That would be silly. If my due diligence isn't met, especially if you have a reoccurring appointment, which has not happened to me, luckily, knock on wood, but yeah, you're gonna lose that spot, and I might be hesitant to pick you back up as a client whenever you're ready. I wanted to communicate with you, and on that third communication, I'm telling you that if I don't hear from you within this window of time, I will go ahead and remove your existing appointments from my calendar. Right, because I can't, I have somebody else is going to want to have that spot or needs that spot, right? And they're ready to work it. Exactly. And I'm not, I think that everybody has a life. Stuff happens. I never charge somebody if they don't show up, that, like that first session that you call me late or whatever. I definitely have a grace period, of saying, I forget things. Stuff happens, right? And it's happened to me where I've missed appointments. Obviously, I'm a human. So, but it's one thing to miss an appointment and be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, or something happened and let me know. But I actually get worried for some of my clients, the people who I've been seeing for a regular basis, and I don't see you. I'm like, both me and my office manager are like, whoa, is everything okay? You know, you get it from both of us because I just want to make sure that something bad didn't happen to you. Because I'm invested in you now, right? We're invested in what's going on in your life. So I just think it's about communication. Right? It is. And I'll fight for someone to stay on my schedule.
Right.
I will absolutely advocate for you. If you're telling me it's financials, I will ask you what it will take to make it work. And there's a chance it won't work for me, but I'd rather have the conversation and feel like, I'm sorry, I can't accept $25 a session.
Of course.
But I really respect where you're at. And because you had this conversation with me, my door will always be open to you. That I may not be, but my door.
Right, exactly. I'm all about the communication. Let's figure this out. Maybe, 1 or 2 times we can have it majorly reduced, and then we can figure out, maybe we'll go to every other week. But there's always something that can be worked through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd rather negotiate or just communicate with me why this is final for you. And
right. And I mean, we have plenty of people that we close and we have a real closure, and we know, okay, check in with me in a month or a couple months, just letting me know you're doing okay, and then we don't have to see each other anymore, right? Until something comes up that you need to discuss. And I know we've talked about this since the very beginning of this show. Of you don't have to be in crisis to come, right?
Yeah.
But again, if really you feel like you're in the flow, life's going along the way you need it to do, and you just don't really feel like discussing things right then, that's okay, right? You can say that to me, and we can come back in a few months and see what life is like. And
I like that. I think I'm going to start offering that more is, especially I encounter a lot of closure or termination of service. I guess I don't like that word termination. I don't have to use it.
Right, because you're not in an agency anymore. We don't have to say that.
It's just like, it's that vocab that sticks in your mind.
Yeah.
It is icky though. But that closure, I don't encounter that formality that, okay, I think I'm ready to.
And I don't do that very often either, but I've had a couple where they'll say, I feel like I'm ready to graduate. And it's like a accomplishment, right? I feel like I came here, I got what I needed, we did a good job. I feel like I'm at a better place in my life. And so I'll just say, okay, awesome. Why don't you come back in a month, and then you just check in with me after that.
I like that idea. I'd like to start offering some form of like a month in.
Yeah, and that's what I do, though. If I've been seeing somebody who's hesitant to kind of move on without me, I'll start saying, let's move to once a month, right? Or let's do it. I do try to generally, unless we got a lot of stuff going on still, I move to every other, and then, okay, I think we got once a month, right? Because at some point, like, okay, somebody else really needs this.
Yeah,
we're holding each other's hand too long here. It's time to move on, and I'm proud of you, and you're doing great, and let's go on, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely, yeah, allowing that autonomy to exist as well. And
absolutely,
I don't need to hold on to you, especially if you don't need to be held in.
Absolutely. Right off, you want to call me every now and then, say, hey, I'm pregnant, or I'm this, or I'm that, or whatever.
But we didn't really get action. Something.
It does. Well, and I think that people don't realize that, like, I think I saw a meme or a reel or something that said about how your therapist, what they're thinking about after you're gone from your sessions sometimes, right? Especially like I don't think of you as my children, but I do think of you as a really important piece of what I'm doing. And I want to be able to make sure that you're well, right? That's my whole purpose for being this. Contrary to unpopular or popular, I didn't become a therapist to make a lot of money.
Right.
And I probably never will make a huge amount of money. But the idea is, I don't want to put that out there, but I am doing this because I have a genuine connection with people. And that's what I want to be able to help them find their, whatever it is they need for themselves. Yeah. Well, I just need to both be on the same page, right? If I'm working on one thing and you're working on another, then we're missing the mark here, so.
Absolutely. And I think another reason why this show even exists for us is like, we want to tear down a bit of that power dynamic and that power structure of, okay, we're not your friend, but I'm not just this authority figure over your life who knows so much more than you or better than you. No, but it's definitely a thing that we have to break down still, because I have people will say, oh my gosh, Sheri, I know you're going to be mad at me because I went back out with so-and-so. I'm like, listen, that's your choice. I've done dumb shit too, right? I will say that, right? My clients know my name's changed multiple times. They know that there's been some dumb tomfoolery in my life. They know it, right? So I'm not ashamed to say it. I mean, sometimes I am, but in my sessions, I'm just like, life happens. We do dumb shit, right? We're humans, right? And it may seem like dumb shit to me, and you may be like, oh my God, sure. But I don't want you to feel bad about me. That's not why I'm saying it. I'm just saying, like, you know what? Life happens, right? I'm never going to look bad at you for coming back and saying, I'm back with so-and-so. Right. And maybe like, oh, I feel bad that you have to be in that position. Yeah. But I'm not going to give you a hard time for it. That's not my job. It happened. What do we have? Okay, so whatever how are you keeping yourself safe or whatever. Give the tea, and now let's figure out how we're going to. And sometimes I really enjoy hearing the tea. Oh, I always enjoy hearing. Like, there is never a time where I'm like, no, we can skip it. No. I'm like, okay, so what's happening here? Ella. Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, no, breaking down that power dynamic, because these people that take up room and take up space in my practice are a part of my life. Yes, like very much you're a part of my story. If you're on my client list, you will be a part of my story. I agree. It's not a story I get to share that much, right? That's just for us, right? But it's still vital. It's very much imperative to my work, and imperative to the loyal in my life too. Yeah, I agree. No pressure. No pressure, but even the guy carries the weird functions coming. I'm like, oh my God, that's fun fighting. Yeah. All right, I got one more for, I guess. We'll end on a silly one. Okay. Oh, sorry, we're not silly anyway. No, but this is extra. This one's extra. And we've touched on a version of this before. Okay, so this, I like extra. Because I am. Okay. Back. This poster asked the question, I went to see a therapist for the first time, and she said my behavior made sense because I'm a Capricorn. Should I get a different therapist, or am I overreacting? Is that your first appointment? I have definitely said stuff like this sarcastically. Yeah, I mean, I have, I hear certain things that people will say, and it would kind of remind me of myself, maybe, or I'll say, oh, I've never said, are you an Aquarius? But it's like, what are you born? Like, what was your birthday? But I don't know. I guess I need a lot more. It's missing a lot of context, right? If your therapist just like paused and let you respond after that without like some type of context with it, and be like, okay, so astrology is not there. It's not a repertoire therapy. We have a whole episode about it. Yeah. It is entertainment, and it does say it's for entertainment value. If it's valuable, it's valuable for you as a client. As a therapist, though. Right. I would not bring that in as, let's pull out the tarot cards and let's consult and let's go over that. That's not my therapeutic practice. I was just going to say we have to be careful, though. No, but I don't mind going to one. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that doesn't have a place in my particular type of therapy, right? I'm a licensed provider. That's not in my wheelhouse, right? There are LCSWs, and in my wheelhouse, that is not in my wheelhouse, right? You're not going to come to my office for that and ask for a tarot card. No, because I wouldn't know what the hell I'm doing. I mean, I'm going to fuck some shit up. I'm going to fuck some shit up. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's at a knowledge base, right? The lack of knowledge. Yeah. So, but do not sell your house based on this shit I just told you, okay? So they're asking if they're overreacting. I don't think they're overreacting. I think if you felt anything that you feel uncomfortable with, if you felt like I'm in quackadoodle-doo land, I'm out, right? Yeah. If that's what you're saying, if that's when you hear that, you're like, ooh, you totally discredited yourself. And that's fair, because you should not be in a situation like that with, and I don't mean that's dangerous, obviously, but if you feel like this is not the right person for you, for whatever reason, you get the chance to say, nah, this ain't for me. Both of us at this table have the potential to cause harm to somebody. If we absolutely do not understand what they're asking for, if we are providing the wrong modality, the wrong level of service, we all have the potential to cause harm. Well, and that's where we come from, that power dynamic, right? And that's what I think, that is where I understand and I appreciate the power dynamic, right? Yeah. That you're coming to me because something is not working for you, and you are hoping that I can help you fix it, right? And if I'm sending you down a lane that I have no business going down, and I'm not trained for it, or I'm just being willy-nilly about it, then I shouldn't, right? Then that's shame on me. But if you bring up, you know what, I was listening about this, what do you think about Aquarians, or what do you think about Capricorns? I'd be like, let me tell you, let's talk, right? On your first session, I would be like, let's talk about that another time. But here, let me find out these things, right? But, it depends on how long you've been talking to somebody.
Absolutely.
If it's your long-term client, I'd be like, I get it now, right? If you have that kind of interaction, right? And mine do. I have more guys that call me out for being a Leo than anything. Oh, for sure. I can see that. I get that more than anything, which I'm fine with. There's room for that. Like, judge me. Let's talk about it. I'm down. Let's talk. Yeah. There's room for astrology in my office. You're saying absolutely. There's totally room for it, but not as me being the astrologer. It won't be on our psychology today. No. I will do it as you when I watch you over being called narcissistic. I'm just Cancer. I'm just getting Cancer, the Capricorn. No, I'm just joking. Those just happening to my ex-husband's birthday. No, it's just we all... Like, you've seen the street interviews where they're like, which sign broke your heart? Oh, yeah. But if I get everyone, absolutely. Well, it's everywhere, right? It's hard to not, right? And some people are completely anti, and that means that you don't have a Christian belief, or you don't have this, and, so I don't believe you can have one without the other. So, meaning I'm not believing that I'm a Christian and therefore I can't believe in astrology. That's right. I'm not saying that those don't exist together or can't exist together, right? So it's a good point, because I was going to make that connection too, which is, so we don't have a recognized astrology-based therapy. And I know 1,001 people who would sign up for that for sure tomorrow. But we do have, I'm really going to get myself not in trouble, but in terms of time, I might. But then we do have things like Christian and space-based therapy. So I think that's really interesting how one can exist and the other one either hasn't been developed yet or won't be. But
and I think it just depends on because there are, I guess, because the majority of people still look at astrology, even though that's been around forever, right? As a hokey pokey, like, not real thing, right? And but I'm not saying that's,
on the other side of the coin.
Oh, and then there's a lot of people who believe that Christianity is hokey pokey, right? And I get that, right? We all have our own internal beliefs, and like when you check off a box on Psychology Today, like, I have on there that I'm Christian, and I am, right? And I stand by that. Yeah. But I will have people specifically come to me and they'll say that was one of the reasons why I chose to come to you, which I was like, oh, okay, out of all the things, right?
And I'm listed on the non-secular project.
There you go.
Specifically, because there are people who
absolutely
never want the Bible or religious events to be brought up.
And I'm not knowledgeable enough. I'm not a Christian counselor.
Right.
I am I'm a therapist who happens to be a Christian, right? And so I am not identifying myself as that, right? Because I'm not studied enough to say, but if somebody was to bring something up to me, I might say, let's think about that. Like, why doesn't that follow along with what you believe, right? Based on the very little knowledge that I, from Sunday school, right? So that to me is the difference. I'm not going to advertise myself as something I'm not.
No,
right?
It makes complete sense what you're doing. Like, it's someone who wants to avoid any kind of,
okay, you're probably not going to come to me because you saw that on there. Right. Hey, but the thing is that also, I have a lot of people who do have religious trauma, or people who, and maybe they didn't see that on there, but I'm not, it doesn't matter to them. The idea is I work with trauma, and I'm not, oh my goodness, you don't believe what I believe. Absolutely not. That doesn't have any place in the therapy session as far as I'm concerned. And so I'm a very open-minded person, which some people may say that's wrong, but I'm pretty, I'm pretty closed-minded in some things, but we'll go on that on another day. But I am, you can pretty much change my mind about things if you give me enough, like sense about it, right? I'm open-minded enough to say, you know what, I could see that being true for you, right? And I don't have to necessarily myself believe it.
I interviewed someone who I'm hoping will be a guest on our podcast soon, and he really not enlightened, but he maybe repurposed an idea that's really helpful for me, which was, we all come from our own experiences and how we interpret those experiences, and that shows up in how we interact with each other.
Absolutely.
So, but it was absolutely like humbling for me to be like, okay, so when I don't like how something is delivered, when I don't like how something is presented to me, I can, like, true to the 4 agreements, right? Don't take anything personally. It's not about me. It's about their delivery. It has an entire story.
Tell us those agreements, because I absolutely love it, and I never can remember what they say.
So we have to look them up. It's like, we probably will, but I'll do my best right now. I'll try to do myself proud. Okay. I believe it's just, well, let me not mess it up. Listen, I called you out on it. Sorry about that.
We'll say the one that you just said.
Don't take anything personal.
Right. Because that goes along also with defensiveness, right?
Yeah, it does. Exactly.
And I know we've talked about that one a lot on here. So
be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions. That's the good one. And always do your best.
Absolutely, right? That's all we can do, right? And so when people say to me, like, you're going to be mad at me for doing this, I'm absolutely not mad at you for doing that, right? People are afraid that, we worked all this time on getting you, on helping you make a decision, right, to do something, and you went back on it, or you didn't follow through with it. You weren't ready, because I can't tell you when you're ready.
Right. And what a great way to model. Like, you don't have to have that much power of them. I absolutely can react and respond and be empathic. When you have the power to do that as well. And likely, if they're saying that to us, there's someone else in their life that they don't want to open this up to.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I personally have had a therapist talk to me before and make me feel like there's certain things that I could or couldn't do, and I was like, I'm never. Right? It was the idea. Because I'm a smiler, first of all. I do it sometimes when I'm nervous, over intellectualize something. I do judge and analyze the shit out of everything, because that's who I am. And I mean, that's my job, right? And but then, when you're talking about something, is there another, like the way that person said, oh, well, maybe we should work on changing those things. I'm like, no, that is me. I don't know that I would be a Sheri if I wasn't. I mean, I'm not a judger to the point where I'm going to hurt your feelings directly. Like, I'm going to talk about it. I've learned my lesson about what you should say and what you shouldn't say. And I've learned my lesson about a lot of things having to do with those personality traits. But you're not going to change me to be somebody who doesn't laugh and smile. Right. That's like my calling card. Like, I mean, I wouldn't be me if I didn't smile on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Even if I'm talking about something difficult.
Absolutely. Yeah,
but
masking.
I'm not laughing hysterically like I'm manic or something, right? So I think it was presented like I don't know how to handle feelings. And I was like, lady, I just met you. Right? So that was, my first therapist I ever had. Made me feel so small and made me feel so incapable of actually feeling better. And that's why you went there to begin with, right? Not because you were small, not because you weren't capable, but you felt that way, and she instilled that was true.
Yeah. And it was this intervention. I'm happy to tell you this intervention, because I would never use it on a client now. I might tell them the story, as I'm telling you, just to illustrate a point, but I would never put my client through this. So I went to this therapist when I was feeling just like hyper conscientious and just like basically like this internal spiral of anxiety. And some things were coming up that I really needed to start processing too from my childhood. And so one of the interventions she gave me was, she handed me a piece of paper that had this phrase on it. Couldn't tell you what it said, but it was just a phrase. And she said, I want you to say this in the silliest voice you could possibly think of. What? And we just sat there in silence. And I was like, One, I didn't know where to start. Two, I just met you. And I'm like, very.
So it was your first session.
First session. We were like, consultation. This is a university psychological center. So no consultation, no nothing.
Right.
And just trying to find a vibe, did not vibe. And I sat there in silence and I stared at her at some point. I'm like, you can tell this isn't going to happen today. And her response was, what? Couldn't even do that. And I was like, no way. It was awful. And because not only was
I can't tell you how many people that's what they're there for, is because you feel like you couldn't even do that right. Not even what she's asking you, but I never can do anything right.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. New skill of mine.
Girl, I'm sorry.
Can't master it, obviously.
Yeah.
Lord knows I try. But yeah, that was like, that's not something I would ever put somebody through.
No. And I think that there's so many things in that first session you should not ask people to do. Right. The only thing I do ask for people to do that might seem outside of a normal session is if you come in and you're shaking because you're so nervous, I'm going to like give you the buzzers to calm down. I'm going to work on breathing with you, and then we can ask questions. That's what I'm going to do first.
But I also, I'm never going to, sorry. No, go ahead. I also will tell you what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what our outcome will be.
Yes.
I'm going to give you these buzzers. I'm going to tell you what we're going to do together for the next few breaths.
Right.
And my hope is that you feel a little bit more regulated to tell me what was going on.
Absolutely. Agreed. My purpose is to help you feel at ease. I want you to feel more calm when you get there.
You know, and empowered to get in there. I've never felt less empowered in my life than I did in that session. And so that was my first session I ever went to. Didn't go back to therapy. I never went back. I didn't go back to therapy till 3 years later.
See, that's why it's so important about, like, if you don't like that your therapist called you out for being a Capricorn, I can understand,
And the irony, too. So that therapist, I'll end on this. That therapist was probably like inches from retirement. And my next therapist that I worked with, an intern that had to record every session. And I loved that intern. He was knocked it out of the park, was so human, was so raw. Also, it was I hated recording sessions.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm sure he hated it more than I did.
Absolutely. He did, trust me.
But yeah, so send in your own version of these curiosity questions. They don't have to be about how we do therapy. They can be like, hey, this happened. Do I go to therapy for this? Or what do I talk? How do I bring this up to my therapist? We would love to be like a little advice column.
I love it. We're here for you.
We'll just modify the podcast to only do those things. Probably not. No, we're still going to babble. But as always, thank you guys for listening. You know where to find us on all of our socials. Let's Be Real, Sheri and Tara. Our DMs and our inbox are always open for y'all. So we will talk to you and see you soon. All right. Bye. Bye.